All right, so basically, this is one of the biggest streamers thinking that the industry is basically effed, and y'all know what I'm talking about. We're talking about
Of
Twitch.
the biggest, richest, yet most relatable streamers, at least to
Osmond
his
Gold, I think.
audience, Asmongold, has talked about
Asmongold.
how he believes that there's a streamer bubble right now and he doesn't know how sustainable it is. So I'm going to play you guys the clip first, and I think he brings up a lot of interesting points that we need to address. So we're going to play it first.
I don't really criticize a lot of the, subathon or stuff like that, but I do think that at a certain point, there's a lot of, I think, resentment that builds up with audiences when
Okay.
people continuously do events where they're just asking their viewers for money. And I think that there are exceptions for this. Like, one thing is that, like, Ludwig, for example, like Ludwig did an event and it was a charity event. I thought it did pretty well. Like, I watched a good amount of it because this was like back whenever I was like still like off stream. And so, he did a great event. And I think, asking and begging for money for charity is a very different dynamic than, asking for it for yourself. And so with Twitch, whenever you have these people that live in these, like multi-million-dollar mansions, they are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and they're making all this money, they're doing all this stuff, and somehow at the same time, they're asking their viewers, who are oftentimes like teenagers or young adults, for, $5 all the time. It just rubs a lot of people the wrong way, I think.
Mm.
I think it does. I think it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And I think that there is a growing resentment for that. And I don't know really how long that's going to last. I have no idea. But I
Okay.
certainly think that it's there.
So off rip.
So before he gets to his breakdown, I give my thought commentary here. I do think that there is a certain term where people are going to kind of be a little bit smarter with their money, especially how the economy is. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because everybody has a choice of how they spend their money, especially when it's they need to do it to take care of them and their family. I don't think that it's a problem when you're maybe donating $5, here and there, to help support your content creator. That's not the problem. The problem is when people are don't know how to be mindful of how much money they give to their favorite content creator when their self is in a pinch hole and they owe debt and they'd haven't even take care and make sure that there's food in their family house or things like that. Now that's when it becomes a problem because you're super obsessive of wanting to support someone you don't even know in real life, but you have things that you have to take care of. Now, at the end of the day, this is marketing and sales. Content, YouTube content creation, in some form, fashion, YouTube and Twitch, people donating and stuff. You're selling yourself, you're selling the brand. And with how the United States is, if you're streaming stuff, most likely you are living into these states. That's just economics, that's how things are. I don't think that it has to be super obsessive where Twitch streamers are bagging, right? I don't think Twitch streamers should bag to do certain things where they're like constantly hashing it and putting it in people's face to donate, sub. Um I I don't really subscribe to that myself, mostly because I know that I need to take my money and put it somewhere else. So I've never really donated at all, not that I think of. I will watch the content to support because, again, as we heard, Most Critical says, a lot of Twitch streamers and YouTubers, they still make money off of AdSense. Now, unless you are somebody who reacted to music reactions and stuff like that, or content that you make that doesn't get monetized, or that's when that makes sense. Then support your favorite content. But if they're making a bunch of money off of AdSense and brand deals, you don't really have to give them your whole paycheck. I mean, damn. Give me some of that. No, I'm joking. But seriously though, let's see what they have to say.
There is something to be said about subathon. It used to be, and I talked about this in a previous video I did where I titled it Kai Cenat Ruined the Subathon. But a subathon was something that was asked for a lot of times by the audience. And now it's kind of like, oh, this is a standard thing that we have to do. And it is a revenue generator. And people do it to generate revenue, to generate a lot of money. But I agree with Asmongold in the sense that people getting up there and just asking for money when they are displaying untold levels of wealth, it is going to rub people the wrong way, especially as wealth inequality continues to, is the right term, skyrocket. Wealth inequality continues to grow. Let's just say that. Like the animosity that people have for really rich people right now is a lot higher than it was even 5 years ago, let alone 7 years ago. And then you also have to take into consideration newer demographics that are being brought into streaming. And this is something that, like, for instance, PC gaming, right? For the majority of people, PC gaming was kind of gatekept, and that's where a lot of Twitch streamers got on. For example, Asmongold, he got on via World of Warcraft. There was a lot of World of Warcraft streamers. Some of the biggest streamers initially came from World of Warcraft, whether that was a Rekful, who I believe was the first person to like integrate or like figure out donations on stream, who he passed away, unfortunately. Who else? Asmongold, Soda Poppin', who else? Other people came into the game after that. I think even Mizkif was a fan of World of Warcraft streamers, and he got into streaming via that as well. But a lot of it was PC gaming, and PC gaming, it's a lot. Building a PC, having a gaming PC was an indicator of a certain level of wealth, especially pre-2016. You had to be at least middle class, if not upper middle class, because a PC would have costed like $1,000, maybe even more. I remember I had a PC that costed, I don't know, like 400 something.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna skip ahead just so I can make sure I stay on track.
A lot more accessible and a lot cheaper. Granted, a PS3 was like $600, but it was cheaper than a gaming PC. And also, a lot of the time, it was building a gaming PC was cheaper than buying a pre-assembled one. But a lot of the time,
basically what he's saying is that the PC is now becoming the standard, and it's a lot more expensive than just a regular console. But even the consoles are going up.
In 14, 15, a gaming PC was like, it was a niche thing. My point is, people that come from a middle class or upper background that don't really have to worry about money and don't have to pinch pennies or anything like that, it creates an environment where they have an excess of income. They are not cheap, if you want to call it that, which I don't think is the right word. So they can be like, oh, let me throw this streamer $5. Let me throw this streamer $10. And it was never seen as mandatory. It was never encouraged. It was always just there. And that's one thing that I really, really liked about Twitch up until, let's say, 2020, is that there was such a level of generosity where people wanted to support the streamer financially, where they're like, yo, this person makes great stuff. Let me give them my appreciation with like $5, $10. It shows up on screen. They read out the message, and people got creative with this, and they started to maybe like have TTS on, etc. We're not going to go that far. But I feel like when certain like streamers came into the game and they had demographics or audiences that were very young, right? Like they were, keep in mind, like PC gaming, it was for the most part, especially during the time period that I said, it was like 16 plus. Now you're getting kids as young as 8 watching streamers, 8 to 18, that don't have any money, whose parents may not even have any money. And now that's a new viewer base that's being added to Twitch that wasn't there before. Yeah, there's not going to be as much disposable income thrown at certain streamers, and especially in the way that these streamers are attracting that audience. So what content are they doing? They're doing girl content, they are doing money content, they're doing flexing content. You're going to attract a certain type of audience with that, as opposed to what Twitch was for the majority of its existence, just gaming. That's going to attract a different type of audience. And even like Fortnite, right? Like Fortnite was, I would say, a newer age thing from like 2017, 18 plus, but people were generous on Fortnite too. It was a game, and it didn't feel like the streamer had this unattainable lifestyle. It was just like, hey, this guy's just like me. Like, I think one of the best examples of of that has always been Tfue, where it's like, yo, this guy, he's just like a college. I could see how any college bro is like, yo, this guy's just like us, but he's, you know, he's killing it at this game, but he's also like a surfer. I don't know if he surfs, but he's like a beach kid, and he skateboards and he does these cool stunts, and like, yeah, let me throw him some bread. He's a cool guy. But I think there is a demand that's growing of streamers that need the money because they're also investing so much more. And I don't think Asmongold addressed this. The expectation, and I think they self-created this expectation, the streamers amongst themselves. Maybe not intentionally, but when you're throwing huge events, like for instance, do you realize how having a cameraman is a normal thing now? It's like, oh, the starter kit to being a streamer is you have a clipping team and you have a cameraman. That was never, the idea of a cameraman was bizarre to me. Like if you talk about like OG IRL streamer, right? Ice Poseidon. This guy walked around with such a crazy contraption, but even the IRL streamers that he birthed, they came from like a selfie stick. They're just IRL streaming with a selfie stick. It felt authentic. It was kind of like a vlog, but now there's cameramen following people. That's already a cost. You got to have hotel costs for that person wherever you're going. You got to have food costs for that person, and you got to pay that person for their time. So that's an extra expense. And even back then, if you watch the interview that Ice Poseidon did with No Jumper, with Adam22, he talks about the expenses that he had. I think at that point in time, he was making around $20,000 a month via donations, as well as I think like subscriptions, things like that, and ads. But he was saying that he was spending at least $10,000, if not more, a month, whether it was stuff breaking, equipment, travel expenses, etc. So his cost for IRL streaming was higher than the desktop streamers. So a lot of people, they're like, well, this is why a lot of people didn't get into IRL. They thought, well, why would I get into IRL if I'm safer, I'm making more money at home, and I have less cost? But now a lot of these streamers got into it, and I think this is why gambling and sponsors like that have become so prevalent, because there is such a high cost of upkeep now for these streamers that, and there's an expectation now that they created. So people want to see, like, you got Neon doing a live stream in Turks with a bunch of black cars and security and a cameraman and then a clipping team.
That just sounds too much, bro. You know what it sounds like? Pimped out artists again. That's what it sounds like. Like artists that live this high, luxurious lifestyle are presented in a way, but they don't actually have it like that. And it's like streamers are falling into that. And what we need to do is streamers need to go back to being desktop streamers, just like backpack rappers. Straight up. We need streamers to be desktop streamers, just like these high rappers that you want to call them. Just go back to being backpack rappers. Just go out and perform and get your money like that. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to sit here and display this whole thing. And then, you know, like he was saying, it's a good take is that it's probably why we get a lot of these gambling deals and stuff like that, because you have to draw in bigger sponsorships to maintain this type of lifestyle when you're doing live IRLs. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that we should just bring back and make content normal of where you're chilling at home, you're talking to the audience that you have, and you're just vibing. Like, you don't have to go and do all. Now, is it nice to do it every now and then? Yeah. But the expenses to have that, where you're almost basically going to a negative, and don't forget, you got to pay taxes because they have to put money on the side to pay taxes. This doesn't come out automatically. So you're looking at like they're probably only really living off of like 1,500, 2,000 that he was describing. You know what I'm saying? They're living check to check just like a regular person. They're just more famously known, and their problems are bigger because they got a higher freaking security and stuff like that.
And then a person running his YouTube, and this is a whole operation that could not be sustained just by the generosity of the audience, if they're even generous. And you notice this too with different audiences. Like, I remember the first time I saw Flight streaming, and he had about 9,000 viewers, and this is years ago, maybe 4 years ago or so, maybe 5. And at this time, I had seen a lot of different streamers, right? And in a different side of Twitch. And I see Flight, and I'm looking through the chat. The chat's moving, and I see like 1 or 2 sub badges. I'm like, yo, what? This guy, he's not getting anybody donating to him. He's got 1 or 2 sub badges. And granted, a lot of his audience came from YouTube, or maybe they were watching via console or something like that. But I remember thinking that was quite bizarre. But if you have an audience like that, then you need to rely on sponsors because their generosity is not enough to keep you afloat. And I think people are a lot less likely to be generous if they feel like you're flaunting it or you don't need it. The whole I'm not donating to a millionaire concept, which I completely disagree with. Like, if I like a product, whether it's an entertainment is a product, and I feel like person put effort into it, I am going to show my appreciation. I'll throw a couple of bucks at it. I just feel like I can't just get free, which people have been conditioned to by these major platforms. Even though it's not really free, you're paying with your time, which is ads.
It's the same thing with paying for like Netflix and other stuff. Like you're paying Netflix, you're paying Disney Plus, you're paying for all YouTube Premium. You're paying for certain things and perks and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a brand and it's something you mess with, it's a movement, you feel invested into it, why not? Right? But we just have to prioritize what's important, what's not. I like the fact that he's tackling both that, and on top of that, people feeling entitled that they have to get something free. Dude, this is not how that is. That's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? If that was the case, this whole economy would not have worked for YouTube nor Twitch, especially Twitch. Like it wouldn't work.
And played ads. That's why I'll always pay to not have ads. But when you see an individual like an Asmongold or even a Moist Critical, who we'll talk about in a different video, or an XQC's just changed recently to start buying really expensive things. And I wouldn't say he flexes on his audience, but he's enjoying his bread a little bit more now. But for years, if you ran the numbers, you would realize that XQC was worth north of 10 million 6+ years ago. Easily. But what did he do? The guy woke up, the guy's room was a mess. He would like barely eat. He would never go outside. He was just on stream all day in like a regular house, what looked like a regular house. So people get this feeling of this guy's just like me, we're kicking it. Yeah, I'll throw him $10. Yeah, I'll sub to him. Like, I've been subbed to XQC for maybe 7 years. I don't even know. It's like 100 months, something like that. And Asmongold is the same thing, except an even worse version. Like they're like, this guy's filthy rich. Like this guy's richer than DDG. Asmongold is richer than DDG by far. Like of course, it's so much richer than DDG. But this guy's got roaches in his room, and he was still living with his parents. Granted, he was living with his mom, and I think both his mom and dad passed away. Sadly, his dad recently passed away, but he was taking care of his parents for a long period of time in his life, which didn't excuse how filthy his room was. It became a meme that his room was so filthy, and there was even like roaches walking on top of his like shirt one time, and he didn't notice it. But this is an example of, oh yeah, you want to
dude, that's crazy. At least pay some money to get some whatever it's called, the Terminators out there, bro. That's wild, bro. And then you could use that to write it off. Be like, hey, this is to make sure that the home is hazardous enough, safety hazardous enough to where I can record and make content livable, habitable. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason to be living in filth like that, and you have roaches crawling around everywhere, bro. No.
Tribute to this guy, not because you think he's broke, but because even though he's filthy rich, he's not flexing it. And not even is he not flexing it, you're like, damn, I live in better conditions than this guy. But why I think this is going to implode, to add on to what Asmongold is saying, is like, for example, you've got a FaZe, and FaZe is 51% owned by the owner or co-founder of DraftKings. And that person pays for the house, and that person pays for the production team, and that person pays for a lot of things that allows them to live there. And apparently that person doesn't take a percentage from any of the streamers. So you start to think about this just from a business perspective. Where is the profitability coming from? Like, yeah, there's ads that run for the streamer, but the streamer gets that. And I think like there's a lot of money flowing in here, and this is why gambling is what sustained this for a lot of time. Like, for example, Adin Ross, without a stake or a rain bet or whatever other sponsor he has that is gambling related that's going to give you this type of money, he would not be able to throw these events. It's impossible. He said he spent $90,000 on a production team. He had to fly in every single fighter. Every single fighter gets paid a certain amount. Then you have the security. It's just it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you were just running that on Twitch, you're not making that money back. The finances don't add up. This is why you need somebody that's going to throw a crazy amount of money, like these gambling sponsors, or you're in a situation where these streamers, like for example FaZe, they can just run up a bag. Kai Cenat, I think, is somebody that is doing it with as cleanly as possible, if you want to call it that, but he's spending a lot of money. Kai Cenat is reinvesting a ton of money. Like, yeah, he has sponsors helping him, but he's throwing his own money to book a lot of these people that showed up to his Mafiathon. And if you believe that, oh yeah, all these celebrity guests just hopped on Kai Cenat's stream for some promotion for free, then listen, I don't even know. I don't even know how I could convince you otherwise. So I do think this is a bubble where a lot of, and let's not even get started on the Clippers. So a lot of streamers are paying a ton of money to Clippers, but their viewership is not growing in proportion to the amount of money that they're spending on Clippers. So there's a bleeding that's happening. And eventually, I think this is all going to fall apart. Not the streaming industry as a whole, but these streamers that think that they can make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The only way that it's going to be bigger and bigger is with someone outside throwing a lot of money. And this is where streaming kind of feels like it's getting away from what it was, which is the streamer and the audience, not the streamer and this corporate sponsor that's just going to throw a ton of money at them for whatever reason. Well, like for FaZe, for instance, they just believe like the brand of FaZe is worth a lot, which I think there's a case to be made there. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know what you.
Well, what I think is that we're just about to go to a reset of the content creator economy, where it's gonna be more toned down. It needs to be toned down. It needs to be more of a personalized type of setting where people are just connecting. You don't have to have this glossy, perfect brand, big house. I'm doing this, I'm making this, because again, like he said, a lot of these content creators that we think are making a lot of money are really bleeding slowly, and they're getting to like the negative when it comes to finance, because it's just not it's not a lifestyle that's maintainable. It's not. And when you have that, you're gonna start seeing a lot of people down bad, bro, and it's gonna be a sad thing, because that's what their whole brand was about. And to pivot to being more of a humble approach and just more of a chill approach, that's gonna be hard for some of them. Some of them might not even upload anymore, nor live stream. So we'll see. Anyways, if you guys enjoy, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're new. See you on the next one. Peace.